He had 5 years to run concurrently. And then he also had a drunk driving, obviously, that he had to plead guilty to, and I think he received a 30-day sentence on that, along with all the license forfeiture issues. So the son has to do 85% of the 5-year sentence by law.
And your reaction?
Again, it's tragic. The son lapsed in judgment, probably should have not driven, call an Uber, call a friend. On the flip side, the victim apparently was walking on the parkway, something that normally doesn't happen. The victim apparently left a Halloween party. I think he had something to drink. Just a bad situation.
About what happened after the accident, is that correct?
It's correct. Of course, I think everyone who have a chance look closer to this case. Everyone have the same feelings about it. Accident can happen, you can happen, me, everyone. And especially for law enforcement, especially for police officer, it have to bring strong brain. Not I'm panic. No, this is not excuse. He was trained in a police academy to no panic. He was allowed to carry gun on our street. He was allowed to save us. And he panicked after stupid car accident? I don't believe it.
Do you agree with the plea deal that hadn't been negotiated?
Really? I tell you the truth. Whatever the sentence will be, 5, 10, 100 years, my pain is still the same. I have only one son, only Damian. I don't have no one, just my wife.
What would you like the world to know about your boy?
Really, I don't have. It's hard to say how we feeling now, every one of us, after 22 months, this case. Every morning you wake up, every morning you try back to normal life, try go to work, but it always follow you. Every aspect of your life, and especially we are like a parents, like a family of Damian. We lose son, grandson, but state New Jersey lose fantastic person. He was nursing supervisor in a nursing home. He saved many lives in his short life. He was only 29 years old.
So the plea deals that were negotiated, why was the state willing to take this to a plea deal as opposed to head to trial?
So decisions about going to trial or resolving a case by plea are always complicated, involve a lot of different parties. The most significant part, there's a lot of legal consequences and requirements that we have to take into consideration, but we are always very driven, very motivated by the wishes of the families. The law is the law, so sometimes you can accommodate it, sometimes you can't. I know that you've all been interviewing Mr. Dymka, the father of the victim. He spoke very movingly in court today. To live and put into practice the forgiveness and love that so many people preach is a lot harder than I think a lot of people realize. But throughout, they were very focused in their discussions with me on both a requirement for accountability and a recognition of the role of forgiveness and mercy. They wanted to make sure that the community would be protected, that somebody who would do something like what the defendants did in this case don't get to be running around the city or the state acting in a law enforcement capacity. And we were able to accommodate that. That's, of course, a provision of the law that would have applied under pretty much any conviction in this case. And they wanted to make sure that there were consequences, but they were not ever, for even a moment, despite their pain, despite their suffering, they were never vindictive for a second. when our office is reviewing a potential plea, in any case where there's a death, we don't, as a matter of practice, the Essex County Prosecutor's Office doesn't offer a plea. We will go to trial if we need to go to trial. We do it every day. When there is a reasonable plea in a death case proposed by a defendant, we will discuss it with the family, and ultimately the decision gets made by the county prosecutor, Mr. Stevens. The law in New Jersey, as it relates to vehicular deaths, such as this one, there was no circumstance under which this defendant was ever going to spend his life in prison or decades in prison under the law. The punishment range for a vehicular homicide that he pled guilty to is 5 to 10 years. The judge who you heard from today, Judge Wiggler, who's supervised this case and many other homicides before, is obliged to weigh the aggravating and mitigating factors as he did. And when we're deciding what plea to extend, we have to do the same thing. We are here to follow and enforce the law. If the law said he got life for a vehicular homicide driving drunk, then that's what the law would say. That's not what the law says in New Jersey. And here the defendant was facing 5 to 10 years, and based on the factors, based on the fact that he didn't have any prior criminal contacts or any prior convictions, that he had led a law-abiding life up to this incident, this was the appropriate sentence.
Father, he really did try to do everything right. As soon as he found out, he told his son, you have to go back to the scene. You can't leave the scene of an accident. He rushed to the scene. He did not know at the time that his son had removed the body. When he arrived at the scene and the state police came, he made some comments to the state police to the effect about the son, whether the son left or not. And that's really where his mistake was, because up until then, he called the state police, he called his chief in Newark. He thought he was doing everything right, and he made this one mistake. So.